been having my Saturday morning coffee and decided it's gonna be harvest day and maintenance. Now that I lived in this house for a full year, this was my second fall garden, and that means it was all about becoming a better gardener than I was last year, trying new things, seeing if I could tend to plants in different ways that would have a better result, and just spending more time in the garden. The plants grew slowly but strongly, and I was happy to see my efforts paying off. Little did I know, this would be the last season that I would spend in this space. The tomato plants in containers were one focus area. I wanted the most tomatoes possible, so I let the suckers grow. I know there's a lot of differing opinions on how to grow tomatoes in containers. Maybe we'll do this one before and after, but this tomato has some work. This tomato plant got a big haircut. This is my success of the season when it comes to indeterminate tomatoes. I pruned every branch that wasn't actively growing any fruit to make sure I only kept the most fruitful limbs. I brought all this compost over here and realized there's a full-fledged arugula plant there in the weeds. I broke a bit off. Tastes good, smells good. Are these sunflowers crazy? That must be 8 feet tall. Most gardeners probably try to deter pests, but I'm likely attracting them. In an urban environment just outside of New York City, you're bound to have all types of commotion, critters, visitors. I think the least we can do is share a little bit of the harvest. It seems like the neighbor's dog is not so fond of the squirrels, and if I remember the raccoons who ate all of my corn harvest last year, I can see where they're coming from. But in the backyard ecosystem, in this bizarre, manufactured, beautiful, shared outdoor space, we're cohabitants, and we have the opportunity to create a space that's beautiful, that's functional, that serves our needs and the needs of the rest of the plant and animal life that we share it with. I learned a lot about my vegetable needs and desires. 2 habanero plants is far too many. All the fruit ripens at the same time and the peppers are way too hot. But then 2 dozen green bean plants is not nearly enough. The fruit ripen all at different times and I want to eat them all at the same time. But the goal for me was never really to become self-reliant. I'm not trying to save myself time at the grocery store. I just want to see how peas grow, and if I could save the seed from them to grow more, which I could, and I did. I do love having fresh tomatoes with my breakfast, but not necessarily because they taste that much better, but just to know that I can do that. Truthfully, I couldn't tell you what dish I added these scrawny little onions to, and even what impact they would have had anyway. But I do know where I bought the seeds for these beets, and when I planted them in the ground, and how long they took to grow. If I wasn't standing out here tending to these gardens, I probably wouldn't have come across my neighbors and swapped stories and gotten to know them and their kids and just what we're all up to and what we all have in common. It's just a space for us to come together. Gardening is such an odd mix of excitement and patience. I want things to hurry up and grow, but then the next thing you know, they're gone. We're done with these peas. Yeah, good luck here. All these leaves died back. This much of the vine is still here, and then it's just dead on after that. Wowee! First ever pumpkin grown. So cool. Little curly top here. And then this vine is dead, so I'll just take this one too, though it's a little green. I don't think it'll get much bigger. Cute, cute, cute. Now, very small, right? The size of my hand. It's there. Nothing else to say. I was always really proud of these sunflowers. Every one of them grew from seeds I was gifted from my cousin back in Texas. And my neighbors always complimented me on them. I cleaned them up, the big sagging leaves, at the end of fall, trying to keep things as beautiful as possible as the season ended. And I wondered if my landlords would let the volunteer seeds come up next year. Of course, I saved a few for myself. Speaking of the landlords, they planted this giant white rose, but tending to it was left to me. You can see I let my chores get away from me as this thing had grown twice my height. It was sprawling across the fence, and finally I decided to cut it back at the end of fall. I did take a cutting from this plant, a strong stalk from the base that I could root into soil and keep as a memento of my first backyard garden. With a little guidance along the trellis, I'm sure this rose will be as tall as the sunflowers again next year. The raised bed experiment was a mixture of flowers, herbs, brassicas, fruiting vegetables, and overall a diverse but relatively unsuccessful endeavor. The basil performed the best, and when it went to flower, provided a great place for pollinators to come visit. Clearly, the root structure was very well established. I wouldn't let any of my efforts go to waste. This compost tea goodness is coming with me and the garden beds in my next home. This backyard garden reconnected me with a passion that I had forgotten that I had. And I'm happy to have reminded my neighbors what this space can hold and what life it can support. I'll carry with me the memories of this place, the skills I developed here, and maybe just a few more seeds to a new location where I will start a new garden, make new plans, new memories, and new skills. As the late rains got colder and colder, I harvested the last of the vegetables, the ones I had been eagerly waiting for, but patiently waiting for. Most of the vegetables that I grew were not as large as what you would find in a grocery store. Some had damage from pests or even from myself. But every plant was a new experience, a commitment that I had made to trying something, to putting my effort out there, to learning something new, or just being dedicated to showing up. So I'm proud of how I can walk away from this backyard garden and move on to the next chapter.